Hey, what's up, YouTube? It is your boy Charles James, and so uh, there was a guy on my YouTube channel. I believe his name is Jude Tyree, and if I pronounce your name wrong, please forgive me. Uh, I'm not that good with names, but um, he was basically he has a video where he was talking about his first encounter with God. And so I got to thinking, I was like, with me being on YouTube, I had never told y'all about my first encounter with God. And so watching his testimony, it reminded me of when I had my very, very first encounter with God. And so what I'm about to tell y'all, I know all of y'all will not believe me, but I believe some of y'all will. And so my very, very first encounter with God, to be honest, it was before I was born into this world. Um, and I know a lot of y'all is like, what? How do you have an encounter with God when you was not even born into this world? I'll tell y'all. All right, um, so basically, I knew God all of my life. And so I remember before I was ever born, when I was getting ready to be conceived in my mother's womb, that's when I first met God. That's when and and so that's when I first heard God's voice. And so I remember that I can't even say that day because, like I said, I really wasn't formed in my mother's womb yet. I was getting ready to be, but I wasn't like like into a existence yet. And so it's hard to describe because a lot of people will say, well, don't you got to exist for God to speak to you? And truth is, no. Um, God spoke many things into existence, and He even talked before it happened, and then it happened, came out of from Him speaking. So basically, y'all, um, the first time I heard God speak to me, I remember God was telling me everything about, well, he didn't tell me everything about my life, but he told me just enough so that I can keep my faith within him. And so God gave me two choices. He said, son, would you rather, or do you want to be home in heaven with me, or do you want to live on earth with your mother? And so I said to God, I said, well, I never had a mother before. And so when I looked up to God and told him that, and that's when God said, okay, but but you're going to go through some things, but I'm going to bring you out. And so once God had said that to me, of course, after that choice that I made, I said about being on earth with my mother, and then that's when I was conceived into my mother's womb, and then when I was a baby, born into this world, and then whenever I was in my crib, my mother told me when I was in my crib, she saw Jesus standing over me, and looking down at me, and he was in so much glory. And so, and so when Jesus was looking at me, he was looking at me in a loving way, and to where, cause see, my mom was happy when she saw Jesus standing over me. So I always knew who God was, but when I was born into this world, and then when I grew up to be like, I want to say like 7 years old, I have forgotten that encounter that I had with God. And so he reminded me at the age of 17, he reminded me that of that encounter I had with him, because one night, I was just doing what I wanted to do, whatever, just in the house with my brothers and my sisters, and then he grabbed hold of my attention, and then God had reminded me of my very very first encounter I had with him. And so, like I said, I know a lot of you're not gonna believe it, but that was my very very first encounter that I had with God. So technically, I always knew who God was, and in fact, just like God told Jeremiah, He said, Before I formed thee and the belly, I knew thee." So that was just like with me. Like before, in fact, that's just like with everybody. Before God even created you inside your mother's womb, He knew you. He knew exactly, what you were gonna like later on. He knew everything. He knew who your brothers were going to be. He knew the school that you was going to go to. He knew all of that, because God is all knowing. And so that was my very first encounter with God. And there are a lot of things that I have not told y'all yet, of encounters that I had with God, of experiencing miracles and things. There are a lot of things I have not told y'all yet, because uh, on some of them I don't feel led by God to tell y'all, but the things that He do bless me to tell y'all, I put it out there. But yes, y'all, that was my very very first encounter with God. But I love y'all and thank y'all for listening, and y'all take care. Bye.